Welcome to the Fabricators Coach podcast, where we believe that every fabricator deserves to have a business that not only makes them money, but also gives them time to enjoy it. In each episode, our goal is to share real information that you can take action on and use today. Information that, if you will use it, can help you reduce the chaos in your business, help you make more money, and help you get your life back. So our agenda is we'll talk about our most recent article in the Sleepy Rock Gazette, the one that came out the first of this month. And as I said, this is really more of a discussion than a presentation. I really like to have all of us kind of learning from each other. I'm a big fan of peer-to-peer learning. If I'm the smartest guy in the room, we're in trouble. I think you've all got good experience, good intuition. I think it's good to share that. Just a quick snapshot of my background. I've got over 40 years experience in manufacturing, in business coaching, business ownership, and I've worked with hundreds of companies in many industries, most of them in the U.S., a little international work. My first project in this industry was over 20 years ago, and I was just talking with Chuck about how much this industry has changed a lot in the last 20 years. It's been interesting to watch some of the transition. I have owned my own brick and mortar business. It wasn't a countertop shop, but I understand what it's like, how it can be pretty lonely as a business owner. So I know what many of you are going through. Also, I ran a countertop shop for a few years. So I know a lot of the challenges that a lot of you deal with every day as well. The reason that we do these articles and then turn them into webinars is I think it's important as a business owner to be able to have a business that doesn't just make you money, but gives you time to enjoy it. I mean, otherwise, what's the point? And the reason we do the articles and webinars is to give you ideas and tips and suggestions on how to work on your business and not just work in your business. And for the case of the most business owners, it kind of helps you stop being your most expensive or at least your most overworked employee in many cases. A lot of business owners aren't getting paid that much and they're putting in more work than anybody else. So they're not necessarily the most expensive employee in terms of pay. They can be the most expensive in that they're not moving their business forward. And that's what we want to try to help you do. And now we do all this because, quite frankly, I think you deserve it. I think it's important. And those of you who aren't owners, obviously we have a lot of ideas, and these suggestions that we make are good for managers as well. So I want to provide something of use to everybody. The article we're going to talk about this time is the one that came out first this month called "What Will Your Sales Be in September?" And before we dive into it, I want to ask a couple of questions. First is, how many of you are already seeing some sort of negative impact from the economies? Either quotes going down, sales slowing down, showroom traffic's down. Any of you seeing any impact at all from any of that?
We have, this is Chuck, we have seen a little bit of a slowdown. Started a couple of weeks ago, and but has picked right back up. I don't know if that was just a fluke hiccup, but everyone in this area that I've talked to, as far as builders, say that things are slowing down economy wide.
Okay, good. Susan, how about you guys up in that area?
We're a little softer than the last time I joined you at the end of May. Last couple of weeks, accepted quotes have been softer. Created came back up last week. The number of quotes we created came back up from the prior week. Commercial is beating our door down though. Chuck, I don't know if you do commercial or not, but in this area, commercial, we've had to turn away some commercial work just to be able to diversify, because we easily could take on more commercial work probably.
Now, Susan, on commercial, are you looking what type of commercial? Are you looking at lobbies for hotels and stores? Are you doing multifamily apartment complexes, condos? What kind of commercial work are you doing?
A little bit of anything. Several healthcare buildings, a few. I don't know. We have any residential. Not residential, but apartments or anything like that. But just a variety of things. We've had a couple of big jobs that have taken a lot of bandwidth that we're trying to finish up and just leave room in the schedule for a little more walk-in traffic and residential. Our schedule is still very packed as of now. But looking forward, the numbers softened a little bit for the last 2 weeks.
Understood.
Is a pretty big variety. Now, be careful you don't ask me any hard questions because I probably won't know the answer.
Okay, just trying to get a rough feel. Celio, I think when we talked at, I believe it was Coverings first of this year, you guys were still running strong because you're doing a lot of kind of a longer term, larger commercial work, right?
Correct. It's still the same. For everyone, we only do business to business, so we don't work directly with homeowners. On the residential side, we do a few custom homes a year, not many. A lot of multifamily and a lot of office tenant improvements, some hospital work, and so on. A lot of those commercial bathrooms, quite a few of those on tile and stone, break rooms, and so on. So as far on the quote side, we're still strong. We've been noticing that we've been getting quite a few more requests for smaller projects. So seeing that the general contractors out there, not the ones that do big multifamily projects, but the ones that do all kinds of projects, are trying to get what they can at this moment. But besides that, we're going strong. We have still one very large multifamily project going on, another one, our biggest ever, actually starting in September, the installations. And on the quote side, going strong. On the project side, it's just still the same challenges. The example, what will our sales be in September? The real numbers, right? The cash coming in.
Yeah.
Because of these schedule changes. But we just had it. One good example that the large multifamily projects is 390 units, plus a lot of work in landscape and common areas, and for stone and tile. And the second half of the units got delayed for 3 months, so that puts a big hit on workforce and predictability. So.
Yeah, tough when you get that much work shifting the schedule. That has a huge impact on your business, I'm sure.
Yes.
How many of you do formal sales forecast? And by formal, I mean something that's written down, updated regularly. Does anybody do anything like that in your business?
We don't.
Okay, Susan, I know you're the number cruncher in your business. Do you see any of that going on?
By forecast, do you mean looking at things we've already quoted, or just looking for new work forecast?
Well, as you're looking out to, okay, this is we're toward the last half of June at this point. What do you think July is going to look like? What's August going to look like? Kind of that looking ahead, business planning type thing. Do you see any of that happening that you're aware of?
Well, as we accept quotes, we always have a projected template date. If it's new construction, that may be 6 months out or whatever. So we do track that to see what kind of volume we're going to need for the shop and for our road crews. 2 to 3 months out, but usually not as far as September, because we may not have anything in the pipeline. We may have some, but not a lot this far out.
Okay. All right. That's understood. Yeah. I talked to a fabricator earlier this year. I went up to visit them, and they did an assessment for them, and they had probably 6 months worth of business already sold, booked. But as of February, March this year, when I talked to them, a lot of that work wasn't even going to start till next year. So the stuff that you've already got booked that you can start to plan for, that's one type of forecasting. Kind of forecasting we'll talk about today is the stuff that's not booked. You don't know that it's out there, But as a business owner or as a key manager, you've got to plan for what's the future going to look like? Are things going to get better? Are they going to get worse? If they get better, how much better? And do I need to look at hiring people? If they're going to get worse, what can I do about it? Or how do I need to react to it? It's that type of long midterm and long-term forecasting that I think is a really big component of working on your business and not just in your business. It's that look ahead to say, okay, what's going to be happening and what do I do about this? How do I handle it? What I find in talking with business owners is if you've been in this business more than just a few years, you got good intuition about your business. You know what your customers, your B2B customers are looking like. You know what they expect. You know what your retail customers look like, where you kind of fit in the market. And you've got kind of a feel for the kind of the hum in the business. You know, what's that walk-in traffic in the showroom feel like? How frequently is a phone ringing? That sort of thing. And that intuition, I think, is good. But I think of that intuition as the canary in the coal mine. It's one of those things that if things change, your intuition starts saying, hey, something's different, pay attention, look at this. The question is, what's it mean? What do you do about it? And so the answer to those questions, I think you have to have data. And that's what we're going to talk about here is where can you get some of that data? Because as you know, just like weather forecasting, past trends do not necessarily predict future performance. Things may have been going great the last 3 or 4 years. That doesn't mean that the next 12 months are going to be awesome or that they're going to be terrible. You don't know. Could be any number of things. To do this, you need national data. I think you need a regional component to the data. And then I think you need to go look at what kind of data can you get from your backyard. And we'll talk a little bit about each one of those. And then the key to all of this is once you've got it set up, keeping it current. And we'll talk about a basic structure for that and some things that you can do to help make that happen. But as we look at national data, there are several different sources that are good. Some are better than others. I'll put it that way. One of them is your general news. That's your ABC, NBC, Fox, CNN, you know, those folks. And they are a source of data, but I think we all know that they have to sell advertising to make money. And, you know, the classic line, if it bleeds, it leads. The bad news, you know, gets you on the edge of your seat and gets you more. It tends to grab your attention more. So I think as you look at the general news media, you kind of have to take that into account and say, okay, yeah, but, and that's just part of your data. And then you have to evaluate that like all your data sources. Another data source that's a little bit better is the financial news. And by that, I mean, you know, Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, Barron's, all those types of sources. From my experience, they'll have better financial information on a national level, but they still need to sell some advertising dollars, you know, to make money. And they're not quite as dependent, I think, as the general news media. But I think the quality of the information you get is better. What I like to do is combine that with what I call subscription services that focus on economic data. One that I like a lot is ITR Economics. For as little as, and this is not a commercial for them, I don't get any money out of this, but for as little as $20 a month, you can get some good basic data on what's going on. Again, it's national level, but they are a non-political, data-driven organization that predicted the Great Recession, predicted the depth of it, the duration of it. They helped a lot of people make some good money with those predictions. This is just one snapshot of part of one report that for $20 a month you get. And there are different levels of subscription. You can spend $100 a month, you can spend more. And they do some really good live webinars every month or two where they talk about different trends and what's driving them and how they do their analysis. I think it's really good to look at. It's a good source of data. And again, that's just one of some that's out there. You can find others. Do any of y'all use or access an economic subscription service, or do you have subscriptions to like Bloomberg, Barron's, Wall Street Journal, anything like that any of you folks use on a regular basis?
No, we do not.
Okay. And that's not unusual.
I'm sorry, financial no, but Harvard Business Review but sometimes it's financial, and some local financial updates. San
Okay.
Francisco, California, San Francisco Bay Area.
Good. Yeah, we're going to talk about some of the regional and
Business
local
journals.
stuff in a minute. So that's good. Yeah, Harvard Business Review is really good on management techniques, management topics, and I think that's always helpful too. I think that's part of as managers kind of rounding out our skill set. There are lots of things like that I read as well. What I'm looking at are sources of data that help you rely less on emotion. You know, I'm in the northwest corner of South Carolina. We are one of the top 3 fastest growing states in the country. Right now in our area, within 50-mile radius of my house, we got 100 people a day moving into our area. Okay. If I were to just listen to the major news networks, I'd be depressed. But if I look at what's happening regionally and get into some of my state and regional data, then I have a much better understanding of what's happening in my neighborhood. And so if I own a fab shop up here, if that were the case, I would really want to zero in on that, because if you're in Florida, Texas, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia, those are the top 5 fastest growing states in the country right now. If you get national data, it's not going to tell you a lot about what's happening in your neck of the woods. So I think it's important to combine that national information with the regional stuff. One of the things that I think is readily available is State Department of Commerce. This is sorry, this is a little fuzzy. Quality of the picture isn't real good. This is just a snapshot of some data from the South Carolina Department of Commerce. You know, we've got building permits levels by month, by different metropolitan region, unemployment insurance claims, same breakdown, employment level statistics, home sales statistics. And that's just part of one page of multiple pages that are in little old South Carolina's Department of Commerce. Every state's got this information. It's free. You just go find the website, log on, and start tracking that. And that's a good free source of information to kind of help you understand statewide and then regionally in your metropolitan area what's going on. So I think that's a real good addition to have. Another one is economic development. The economic, at least in South Carolina, the economic development organizations are regional. They work with State Department of Commerce to recruit new business in. It's good to tap into them, and it's also free, at least in our area, because it tells you, in our case, what types of industries they're recruiting. And are those industries going to come in and try to hire from local folks, or are they going to bring in a bunch of executives? Is this like IT white collar work, or are we looking at, like a recent announcement was a really large lithium battery manufacturing operation for vehicles, for electric vehicles? Billions of dollars worth of investment, be a lot of blue collar, jobs created there. The level of those jobs are going to drive the demand for housing. Obviously impacts our industry. So having that type of information is definitely very important. And then, as Celia was talking about, some regional economists, there are some areas of the country, as I've worked with clients, where they've already tied in with somebody who's sort of a specialist in a region. Like I think there's a guy, I don't know his name, that focuses on Kentucky, Tennessee, kind of area, and looks at what's happening economically there. We've got in South Carolina, we've got a economist that was on one of Reagan's key economic guys. I think he's retired now, but he used to do quarterly reports on what's driving the economy in our area. So those things are available. And Celia, you mentioned some resources that you use. What sort of local resources do you guys tie into?
A business journal. I have a San Francisco Business Journal and different areas here in the Bay Area. Silicon Valley Business Journal, San Francisco Business Journal. Very focused on a lot of their focus is on what you were saying just right now. Companies moving out, moving in, changes, people being let go, and so on.
Okay, good. So you're already doing some of that. That's awesome. Susan, Chuck, you guys tap into any data like this?
Have in the past with the Charlotte Business Journal, but they quit having a feature of Rock Hill in our little area. So I haven't looked at that, and probably a year or so. But hearing Celio say that, I will pick it back up for sure.
Okay. And Rock Hill's in kind of a unique spot. You guys are a suburb of Charlotte, but you're in South Carolina, and you're kind of close to Columbia, but kind of not. And so it's a little more difficult for you. But I think, and I've not looked at South Carolina's data to see what's specific to Rock Hill, but I imagine there's some stuff out there that would be like in economic development or in state commerce that might be helpful.
Yeah, I'll check that out.
Okay. Susan?
Well, we're Mount Area is pretty rural, so we are involved with our local economic development. We're also involved, with the local chamber, but we have residential traffic here, but we also spread out, to a couple hour radius. We have a lot of work in Virginia, closer to the Roanoke area. So, we definitely almost have a region probably instead of just very local because we are so rural.
Yeah, definitely. And I've got some clients in other states in semi-rural areas, kind of like that. And they have to kind of reach out to multiple sources because they're not hitting just one metropolitan area. They're on the fringes of several metropolitan areas. And obviously with COVID, there was a lot of spillover of people leaving urban areas, heading out a little bit more rural areas and kind of impacting areas like yours, Susan, that are, a little bit more kind of semi-rural, not necessarily part of a big city. So, yeah, I think it's good to get this data and look at it to kind of understand, what's it telling you about the trends in your area? What's that going to look like? Because obviously, if you're in, Chuck's in South Carolina, Susan's in North Carolina, the trends that they're going to see will be totally different than somebody in Maine or Oregon or Washington State. California, supposedly losing lots of people, but Celio sounds like, at least in your area in San Francisco, things are still wide open. So while a state may not be doing great in terms of population growth, an individual area within a state can still be doing very strongly. So tracking all that data, I think, is to be really important. That's part of what I like to encourage folks to do, is to look at multiple sources of data like that.
And Ed, one challenge that I see is, even though I receive some weekly updates and to see what's going on, it's actually the hard part is adding those weekly or monthly updates together to then be able to look at a trend. Because, in a month you'll see that Facebook is letting go 4,000 people, and then a couple campuses are being sold, right? Because companies are leaving. Next month, there's companies coming in and so on. So seeing that, it's good to have it in your head. It's always helpful, but it may give you a false sense of, I know what's going on. But adding those up and following and putting it somewhere where I can see not just the latest month or the latest week, but the trend is very helpful. And that's a challenge for me.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Yeah.
Do you tap into regional economic development organizations and your State Department of Commerce at all?
No. We do follow on some permits from the major cities, right? San Francisco, San Jose, Oakland, around here. The permits are, again, a good source of information, but you understand from those permits what what will help our tile and stone business is a very different thing, right? Sometimes there's a big warehouses coming up with 3 bathrooms, and that's it. So a lot of square footage, lots of millions of dollars, but not a lot of tile and stone work.
Well, one of the reasons I asked about state commerce and economic development is that, from my experience, you're right. Trying to keep track of all this in your head and trying to do the trends and plot it with the data is really difficult. And that's why I like the graph on the screen here. You're looking, even though it's tough to read because it's fuzzy, if you're looking at, the building permits, well, each one of those 6 squares is a regional area. And then we're looking at, I think in this case, it's either quarterly or monthly data. So you've got the trends in those the last 6 to 12 months trends of those different areas. And so I think the economic development and state commerce folks are looking at that big picture saying, okay, yeah, Facebook is laying off and they're going to sell off this campus, but we also are out here recruiting Microsoft to come in. They need space and they're actually considering buying that campus. And so here's what we think the net, head count's going to be or whatever. And they're also tracking the population trends. There's a lot of exodus out of cities into the rural areas during the pandemic with remote work for white collar folks. But then as people move in and out of areas, as economic conditions change, I think your state commerce and your economic development folks are keeping tabs on kind of that net impact to kind of help you understand what that's going to mean for you in a lot of cases. So it may be worth digging into some of those sources, Celio, to see if they can help you out a little bit.
Thank you.
So now we start getting into our backyard and trying to say, okay, as Celio said, when you get all these different sources of information, even when you track them regularly, you can only keep so much of this in your head, and it's tough to put this in a format that really says, okay, so what are my sales going to be in August or September or what, what's fourth quarter going to look like? And that's where I think you take the national and regional data, and then you start diving into your local sources of data and getting really specific. And one good example is Home Builders Association. Every time I bring this up, face to face with a fabricator, I get the eye roll and the head shake back and forth, and people are going, "Oh no, not this again!" Because I think most fabricators, when they first started off, went to the Home Builders Association hoping to get a lot of business, and they got nothing, and they felt like it's a waste of time. But hear me out for a second. What I have found is that when a fabricator will go to a Home Builders Association meeting, and instead of trying to recruit customers, go looking for data. Your customer may not be in that meeting, but if you're selling to production builder, there's probably another production builder in that meeting, or custom home builder, or whomever. Your B2B, whoever your B2B customers are, and you can go walk up to them and say, "Hey, Bob, understand, you're doing custom home building. How was last year for you? How many homes did you do last year? Great. What kind of was the price range are you in? You're in that $250,000 to $500,000 range. You're doing $1 million and up. You kind of get a feel for that. So how was the first half of this year compared to last year? What's that look like?" And then you can go on further and start asking about, so what do you think the second half of this year is going to look like for you? And what you're doing is you're having what's called an authentic business conversation. It can be part of really good part of a sales process, which I'm not going to get into today. We talked about that a couple of months ago. But what you can do is find out from Bob the Builder that, yeah, first 6 months of this year, we're kind of up and down. We're probably a little slower than last year, but right now it looks like the second half of this year will equal last year. And by the way, I'm in the $500,000 to $1 million home size range. And I think we're gonna, the next half of this year, we're gonna do 50 homes. You can ask about trends. Are you staying in that $500,000 to $1 million a year size range, or are you getting a lot more requests to move up in the $1 million to $2 million range? What sort of trends are you seeing in the types of kitchens and the types of baths people are doing? Are they doing these large multi-person walk-in baths that got 15 different nozzles hosing you down with a fire hose, which indicates one type of bathroom for you? Are you seeing a lot more outdoor kitchens? Are folks gravitating more towards natural stone, or are they still staying with the white quartz and the white porcelain? You can ask those kind of questions, and now you're starting to get data. And just like the weatherman, Bob's trying to predict the future for the next 6 months. It won't be precise, but you talk to Bob, and you talk to Sue, and you talk to Mary, and you talk to 4, 5, 6 people at this meeting, and now you're starting to get an idea of what the trends are looking like. And when you find folks who are in the market segments that you're already in, that starts to give you additional data on, gee, my custom home builder business, it's been kind of off and on so far this year, but looks like it's going to firm up, could be strong next year. For the rest of this year. And now you're starting to be able to take that data, correlate it with this regional and national data we talked about, and start to form a really good picture of what the rest of this year could look like. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yes.
So we're starting to drill down to something more specific that you can sink your teeth into, something that you can use to start driving some specific forecast for your company, which is where we want to get to. You can have the same kind of conversations with your current B2B customers. You've got outside salespeople, or if you are you're going out and talking to your builders. You can ask them the same questions. Hey, we did 20 kitchens for you last year. Looks like first half of this year, you're kind of on track to do the same. What do you think the second half looks like? And the same thing about trends and volume and style. And, you're talking to a builder that hadn't done any outdoor kitchens, and he's going, I think our volume is going to be the same, but we're starting to move up market. Our houses are getting more expensive, and we're getting a lot more requests for outdoor kitchens. Well, if that's a current B2B customer, man, you want to know that, right? Because that's different adhesives and different materials and the whole shooting match. Or if somebody's coming to you and saying, well, I think we're going to be a bit slower the next half of this year. Well, is it because you can't get enough labor? You can't manage and produce houses fast enough? Is it a lack of land? I mean, in our town, we're considered pretty much built out. And so trying to find, actual lots in the city limits, tough to find. And so that's an issue. Or is it a situation where they have fewer buyers for whatever reason? Because they're in a market segment where they're really that, if you're in the lower end of the price range, you're getting that impact on interest rates is a lot more significant. It's felt a lot harder on the lower end of the range than for the folks that can afford the $1 million, $2 million, $3 million houses. They don't worry as much about that. So you can dig into both the pluses and minuses on that, talking to your existing customers, and certainly with your prospective B2B customers, you can have the same conversation. In fact, as your sales folks go out and talk to existing and prospective B2B customers, they should be tasked with gathering this data. Every client that I'm working with right now, whether they're struggling with sales or not, we're building out the capability of going in and as they go make a visit with anybody, current or prospective B2B customer, they're sitting down afterwards making a few notes. Here's what we think the next 6 months look like based on this conversation with Bob. Here's the market they're going to be into. Here's how many starts we think they're looking at. Here's what we think the average stone job is going to be for them, and starting to build out the data from these conversations. Does an approach like this sound like it could be helpful to you folks?
Yes, at least you have a source to go to back up your future plans.
Definitely. And then you can take, and I know, Chuck's driving, and so maybe tougher to see on his phone. And if you guys need copies of this, I can send it out. But I've just got a spreadsheet up here on screen that's got July, August, and September broken out across the top. And then down the left-hand side, I've got a section for current B2B customers. And there's a line for each customer. And under July, it's got number of jobs, average dollars per job, and what's our confidence level in that forecast. So if you're working with Bob the builder, he's an existing B2B customer. He says, yeah, I think I'm going to do, 2 or 3 jobs a month for the rest of the year. And if you work with Bob a while and he's got pretty good business sense and he's got his finger on the pulse, and you may be highly confident in that forecast. But you may go talk to another contractor and, oh yeah, man, we're setting the world on fire. We're going to do 10 houses a month. And you're thinking, okay, this guy's a little wound up. I might be 50-50 on that forecast, and so you're going to put a percentage on it. It's your best guess. It won't be perfect, but it's your best guess. But now you can do the math and say, okay, Bob's probably good for about $60,000 worth of work in July. And he's talking about how August and September run a lot stronger. And so Bob's going to be 60 in July, 120 in August, 150 in September. And now you're starting to build a forecast. And you do that with your existing B2B customers. Take your best guess on what your confidence level is in their understanding of their business and do the math. And then on your prospective customers, your confidence level is a little bit different. It's a combination of, does Chris, the K&B operation, have a good handle on their business, and do they seem to be pretty confident in their forecast, combined with this is a prospective customer. What's our percent probability we're going to land this account? And so you're going to combine those together and do the same thing. Number of kitchens, average size of job, confidence level, do the math. And now you've got your current B2B customers with a forecast. That should be a stronger forecast. And your prospective B2B customers with a forecast. It won't be quite as strong. But now you've got some numbers to work with. And if you stay on top of this every month, you sit down now, you do your forecast for each month for the rest of this year. And then you sit down the 1st of August to look at July and say, well, Chris contractor said he's going to do 4 jobs. He actually did 6. Or, Bob said he was going to do 2. He actually didn't do any, and you start adjusting those forecasts, or you go back and you ask those folks questions. Hey, you thought you were going to do 4, you did 6. What changed? Well, we found some extra guys and we were able to get a couple more starts done. We still think our forecast for the rest of the year is going to hold. Okay, so you don't adjust your forecast. Bob said he's going to do 2. He didn't do any. Yeah, our side of the market, we just can't find buyers. I'm sitting on 2 houses now. I can't afford to start another house till I sell these, and it's going slow, right? All that information is data that you can plug into a spreadsheet and start looking at, well, what do I think my business is going to look like in July and August and September, et cetera. Does that type of approach sound viable for you?
It does.
We definitely do some of this. We work with a good number of K&Bs, but we have grown exponentially. So we do this, but as far as having it recorded like this, so you really can, so you're guided by data instead of feels. This is awesome because our sales staff are to follow up with their accounts, and they have the data of where we are now, how many jobs that we've done for them, jobs in progress. But as far as having the conversation, hey, what's it looking like going forward? They should be doing some of that, but as far as having it recorded to look for a projection, that's not being done.
Okay. Susan, what would be the value of recording this and then updating it every month from your perspective?
Oh, I think it's invaluable. Just to be able to look forward to, have an idea of what's coming. I'm a data nerd, so I love it.
So obviously, taking your intuition and quantifying it is helpful. Certainly, kind of reduces the emotion of, I just read 3 articles and they all say that we're headed for a recession for the next 18 months. It helps take out that negative impact, emotional impact. Part of my question is, okay, if you've got this vision for the next 6 months, and let's say it shows you have a really strong probability of growing 20% in the next 6 months, what's that do for you?
Right now, it'd scare the heck out of us.
You guys are already growing real fast, it sounds like, so I can understand that.
We need some fabricators in the shop.
Gotcha.
Well, it would allow you to forecast what you need versus just going by gut feel and seeing what other contractors are doing, and allow you to actually have the data necessary to back up the feelings, so you actually have something actionable and you can move on.
And that's the whole idea, I think, is you hit the nail on the head, Chuck, is being able to start to put firm plans in place and take action on that. If you hit the website, fabricatorscoach.com, and hit the free tools tab, there's an annual planning spreadsheet that if you track your throughput dollars per order, the cash each order generates for you, and your operating expense per day or per month, the cash that you burn, and then you take this forecast, use it to drive that annual planning spreadsheet. Now you can say, Susan, you guys are already growing, like a house of fire, it sounds like. And if your forecast said that we've got another 30% coming at us in the next 12 months, then you can start looking month to month as you hit these different sales levels. Well, I've got to add another templater. I'm going to need 2 more customer service folks. Come October, I need to have 2 CAD people trained up because I'm going to need them, Or if it's trending the other way, you can say, okay, how do I keep that from happening? I've got a client right now that's got a really strong, he's in a semi-rural area. It's in a state that's losing people, but he's forecasting 30% growth this year because even though he knows the economy and some of the demographics are working against him, he's going out and hiring more salespeople so that his overall sales is not going to drop off. It's actually going to grow. And it's partly as a result of doing this type of planning and looking at what the forecast is on your financials as a result of this sales forecast to say, okay, here's what I need to do with my business, good or bad.
Sales generally have not been our problem, especially as of late. When I get all these emails, and I manage the boss's inbox as well. So if I get all these folks saying we can increase your sales, and I'll delete, that is not the problem. Right now, it's getting it through the shop. Just the volume of work we have, and I don't know about you guys, but the specialty work that we've had has increased. Just higher end stuff, and it takes more time to get it through the shop. Quartzite takes more time to get it through the shop.
Yep.
And finding folks who will work is, I'm sure that's a problem everybody has, but we have a very good team, but we need more.
Understood. Yeah, it's good news, bad news. As the economy softens up, there are different areas of the country where there are some people becoming available to pick up, and some of them are pretty good folks. And Susan, if you want to, either in our next half hour, we can talk about this, or we can have a separate phone call. There's some specific things I can recommend for you that may help out. I've helped some fabricators hire some people over the last few years. I usually get involved in hiring key managers, and the next article, next month is about that aspect of things. But there's a few things you can do to hire some of the hourly folks that you need. And on the website, I've got some tools that talk about how to free up 10% of the capacity you're already paying for. There's some really key, simple things you can do that'll help with just taking what you've already got and utilizing that better. So if that's a conversation you'd like to have, we can, again, after we wrap up here or at another time, we can do that.
Sure.
So there are ways. It's a challenge, certainly. I think it's getting to be a more manageable challenge these days. I've got a client that's in Central Texas. Central Texas, he's trying to hold his growth to below 50% a year because Central Texas is just exploding, and we're trying to make sure he gets the right management structure and company structure in place to support the growth. And of course, finding hourly folks is a real challenge for him. But we've done a few things that have been pretty successful for him. So there's a couple things we're thinking about.
Okay, great.
Celio, you've been mighty quiet, man. What's on your mind?
I have a question or a question for suggestions on. Is anyone using anything else other than Excel to try to put these numbers together? Or have you found something that has been helping you with putting these numbers together? And besides that, adding that to, I believe Susan was saying, the challenges on fabricating and what different materials, getting all of that information together while still trying to run the day-to-day. It's a big challenge.
It can be, and that's where if you can nail down some key sources of data, for your regional data, can be helpful, because you can just like what I do is I just go hit them on a regular basis. It's kind of like part of my management rhythm for my business. And on your specific sales forecast, that's the kind of thing you need for your salespeople to be bringing you the data. As far as how to pull that data together, smaller shops get by fine with a spreadsheet, just like what we've got on screen here. But a larger shops, if you've got a good CRM program, customer relationship manager type program that tracks all of your leads, tracks all of your sales calls, if your salespeople are using that in a good disciplined fashion, then they'll be able to, every lead is a sales opportunity. Different packages call those different names. They call them deals. They have different terminology for them. But if you're using a CRM, you will automatically be able to build in size of job, what you think the revenue is going to be. Some can allow you to put a confidence level in there, and then you can dump that data out and analyze that. So that's another way to do that as well if you've got that type of system with your salespeople.
Got it. Thank you.
Well, a couple of final thoughts. One thought I'll always like to leave folks with is that your business is running exactly the way you've designed it to run. And if you're not happy with how it's running, then it's time to make a change. Hopefully, I'll give you some ideas of some things to change here today. If you want to get a little deeper, give me a call. Hit the website, fabricatorscoach.com. Press the button to schedule an assessment. Be glad to do that and get a little deeper into some specifics for your company. Keep your eyes out too for some things we've got coming down the pike. Some of you have talked about needing some help with sales. I know Susan doesn't want any help with sales, which is a good problem to have. We've got a sales mastery class. We're about to wrap up the packaging on it, and it should launch. I think we're going to start marketing it in the next few weeks. So if you're interested in something like this, will be self-paced online with a small live component. So if you're interested in something like that, keep your eyes open for that. Keep your ears open. Our next article coming out first of next month is titled "The One Thing to Know When Hiring Your Next Manager," and it's what are some of those key characteristics to look for. And I'll give you a spoiler alert: the key characteristic does not include countertop fabrication experience. There are other characteristics that are, I think, very important. And I can give you some good examples too of how we've used those characteristics to find some good folks for some good fabricators. But I want to thank you for taking some time out of your Thursday to be with us. I hope this has been helpful for you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Fabricators Coach podcast. If you've got any additional questions about this particular episode or anything else, please check us out at fabricatorscoach.com. Thanks. Have a great day.